The sky bled red over the New Mexico desert, not the clean red of sunset, but something darker, something wrong. Smoke rose in thick columns against the dying light, twisting like black rope pulled tight. The wagon burned. 5 women had been laughing an hour ago, trading stories about the men they would meet, the lives they would build, the futures that waited somewhere beyond the horizon. Now the wagon was a skeleton of charred wood and canvas flames licking at what remained. Clara Brennan pressed her body against the rocks. Her hands dug into the sand. Hot. Everything was hot. The air burned her throat with each breath. Smoke and gunpowder and something else. Something that smelled like meat left too long in the sun. She could see them from where she hid. The bodies. 5 women who had shared her journey. 5 women who would never reach their destinations. Eliza Monroe lay 15 feet away. Her hand was still outstretched, still reaching toward the spot where Clara had fallen, where Eliza had pushed her. The last thing Eliza had done. Push Clara toward the rocks, push her toward cover, push her toward life. Clara's fingers found the envelope in her coat. The paper was stiff with dried blood. Not her blood, Eliza's. The last gift from a woman who had become a friend in the span of 2 weeks on a train heading west. The men were still there, 3 of them, moving through the wreckage like vultures picking at bones. One wore a long coat despite the heat. Another had a scar that ran from his temple to his jaw. The third was young, too young to have eyes that dead. The man in the long coat kicked at something. A trunk. It split open. Dresses spilled out into the dirt. White cotton and blue calico. Wedding dresses. Dresses that would never be worn. "Make sure," the man said. His voice carried across the open ground, flat, emotionless, like he was discussing the weather. "Werner wants no witnesses." Werner. The name hit Clara like a fist. She knew that name. Everyone knew that name. James Werner ran the biggest marriage bureau in Santa Fe. Respectable. Legitimate. The man who helped lonely women find good husbands in the frontier. The man who helped lonely ranchers find good wives. The man who had arranged this journey. The scarred man moved among the bodies, checking each one. His boots left prints in the blood-soaked earth. When he reached Eliza, he paused, bent down. Clara saw him reach into Eliza's coat pocket, searching for something. He straightened, shook his head. "Nothing." "Burn it all," the man in the long coat said. "Torch the wagon. Make it look like an accident. Overturned lantern. These things happen." They had kerosene. Clara could smell it, sharp and acrid. They poured it over the wagon, over the bodies, over everything that remained of 5 women and their dreams. The match caught, the fire roared, and Clara understood with terrible clarity that she was supposed to be in there, burning with the others, another victim of a tragic accident on the road to a better life. She waited until they rode away, waited until the hoofbeats faded into nothing, waited until the only sound was the crackle of flames and the whisper of wind across the desert. Then she crawled, hands and knees. Temple and her fingers came away red. The temple and her fingers came away red. The world tilted, spun. She made it 10 more feet before her arms gave out. The last thing she saw was the stars appearing overhead, cold and distant and utterly indifferent to the small tragedy playing out below. Then darkness took her. Ghost Rider Daniel Cassidy saw the smoke from 5 miles out. Wrong color, wrong time of day, wrong everything. The mare beneath him felt it too. Her ears went flat. She fought the bit. Animals knew death before men did, smelled it on the wind. He gave her head anyway, urged her forward, toward the smoke, toward whatever waited at the end of that black column rising into the evening sky. 20 years wearing a badge taught a man to ride toward trouble instead of away from it. Some habits died hard. Some never died at all. The wagon came into view as he crested the ridge, or what was left of it. The frame lay on its side. One wheel still turned slowly in the wind. The canvas was gone, burned away. The wooden sides were charred black. Smoke still rose from the ruins. Daniel dismounted. His boots hit the ground with a soft thud. The mare shifted nervously. He tied her reins to a Joshua tree and walked toward the wreckage. 7 bodies. He counted them twice to be sure. 5 women, 2 men. One of the men wore the rough clothes of a wagon driver. The other had a gun belt, a guard, both shot in the back. The women were harder to look at. Young. All of them young. He'd seen bodies before, too many. But you never got used to it. Anyone who said different was lying or dead inside. He knelt beside the nearest woman. Dark hair, maybe 30 years old. Her eyes were still open, staring at nothing. He closed them gently. An old habit, a small mercy in a world that offered few. The bullet wounds told a story. Multiple shooters, military pattern, not random, not bandits looking for quick money. This was execution, professional, clean, except for the burning that was meant to hide something. Daniel stood, walked a slow circle around the scene. His eyes tracked the ground. Boot prints, 4 different sets, maybe 5. The tracks led east, toward Santa Fe, toward civilization, toward the kind of men who wore nice clothes and shook hands and smiled while they planned murder. He'd seen this before. 3 years ago. Another wagon, another group of women, another fire. The marshal's office had called it an accident then. Tragic but not suspicious. These things happened on the frontier. Wagons overturned, lanterns spilled. Fire spread fast in dry country, but Daniel had known, even then, even when everyone else accepted the easy answer. He had known someone was killing mail-order brides, someone was profiting from their deaths. And then Rachel had died. Beautiful Rachel with her golden hair and her quiet voice. Rachel, who had run from something she never named. Rachel, who had married him in a small church with no family present. Rachel, who had loved him for 6 months before someone put poison in her tea, and the local doctor called it a fever and signed the death certificate without asking questions. Rachel, his wife, his ghost. The reason he'd turned in his badge and walked away from everything. The reason he was out here alone instead of in town where he belonged. He forced the memories down, buried them deep where they couldn't touch him. There would be time for grief later. There was always time for grief. Movement caught his eye. Small, almost nothing. A shift in the shadows near the rocks. Daniel's hand went to his gun, drew it smooth and easy. 42 years old, and his hands still remembered. Still knew the weight. Still knew the balance. "Easy," he said, speaking to the shadows. "I'm not here to hurt you." Nothing, just wind and smoke and the smell of death. He walked toward the rocks, slow, careful, gun down but ready. She was curled against the stone, small, bloodied. Her dress was torn silk, expensive once, ruined now, mud and blood and ash. Her fingers were locked, white-knuckled around something, an envelope. She held it like a lifeline, like the last solid thing in a world gone liquid. Her eyes opened, blue, pale blue like winter ice. They focused on him with effort, found his face, held it. "Werner," she whispered. The word came out broken, desperate. "They knew our names." Then her eyes rolled back and she was gone again, unconscious, maybe dying. Daniel holstered his gun, knelt beside her, checked her pulse, weak but steady. The head wound looked worse than it was. Scalp wounds always bled heavy, made everything look fatal. He reached for the envelope she clutched. Her fingers tightened even in unconsciousness. Protecting it, he worked them loose gently. One at a time, the paper came free. Inside was a list, 12 names, all women's names, addresses in different cities, Philadelphia, Boston, New York, St. Louis. And beside each name, a notation, amounts, $500, $700, $1,000. At the bottom of the page, written in different ink, fresher ink, were 2 words. Werner Transport. Daniel's jaw tightened. His hands wanted to shake. He forced them still, made them fold the paper, made them slide it into his coat pocket. He looked at the woman, really looked. She was 25, maybe 26. Dark hair matted with blood, fine bones, soft hands, hands that had never worked a field, never scrubbed floors. This was a city girl, educated, from money, or what used to be money, the same kind of girl Rachel had been. "Not this time," Daniel said to no one, to the desert, to God if he was listening. Not this time. He lifted her carefully. She weighed nothing, felt like bird bones wrapped in silk. Her head lolled against his chest. He carried her to the mare. The horse shied, smelled the blood. He spoke to her low and soft until she settled. Getting the woman into the saddle was harder. She didn't wake, didn't help. He managed it, held her with one arm while he swung up behind her. She slumped back against him, breathing shallow, but breathing. The cabin was an hour's ride. He'd make it in 40 minutes. Had to. She needed water, needed her wounds cleaned, needed safety, such as it was. Daniel turned the mare's head toward home, kicked her into a canter. Behind them, the wagon burned down to embers. 7 bodies cooling in the desert night. 7 more ghosts to add to a territory already thick with them. The moon rose full and pale as bone. Waking to strangers, light came harsh through the window. Clara's eyes opened, closed, opened again. The ceiling above her was rough wood, unfamiliar. She tried to sit up. Her body screamed protest. Everything hurt. "Easy now," a voice, male, low, coming from somewhere to her left. "You're safe. You took a hard knock to the head. Best stay still." Safe. The word was a lie. Nowhere was safe. Not anymore. Clara's hand went to her side, searching. The envelope was gone. Panic hit like cold water. She sat up fast, too fast. The room spun. Her stomach heaved. She was going to be sick. A basin appeared. Strong hands held her hair back while she retched. Nothing came up, just bile and fear. When it passed, she was shaking, cold despite the warmth of the room. "The envelope," she managed. Her voice came out as rough as sandpaper. "Where is it?" "Here." The man held it up. The envelope, stained and crumpled, but whole. "I didn't read it." "Well, I did, but I gave it back." She snatched it from his hands, clutched it to her chest. Only then did she really look at him. Tall, too thin, like he'd forgotten to eat for a few years. Gray eyes that looked older than his face, weathered skin, hands scarred from work. He wore a simple shirt and trousers. Nothing fancy, nothing threatening. But something in the way he stood, the way he held himself. This was a man who knew violence, who lived with it. "Who are you?" Clara asked. "Daniel Cassidy." He pulled a chair closer, sat down, kept his hands visible on his knees, non-threatening. "Found you at the wagon. Brought you here. This is my place." "The others?" "Gone." "I'm sorry. Gone." Such a small word for something so large. Eliza was gone. Mary, Catherine, Rose, Anne, all gone, all dead, because they wanted something better, because they believed in promises made in letters, because they trusted. "How long?" Clara asked. 2 days. You've been in and out. Fever broke this morning." 2 days. She'd lost 2 days. Clara looked down at herself. Someone had changed her clothes, put her in a simple cotton dress, clean, modest. Her wounds were bandaged. Her hair had been washed. The blood was gone. "Did you?" She couldn't finish the question. "Mrs. Fletcher from the next ranch over. She came and helped. I stayed outside." Seemed proper. Proper, as if propriety mattered anymore, as if anything mattered after what she'd seen. "Where am I?" Clara asked. "Redemption Springs territory, about 40 miles south of Santa Fe. My cabin. It's not much, but it's private." Private, isolated, no witnesses. Clara's eyes found the door. It was closed but not locked. The window was open, curtains moving gentle in the breeze. Daniel followed her gaze. "Door's open if you want to leave. I'll saddle a horse, give you supplies. You can ride wherever you want." Just like that, just like that. She studied his face, looking for the lie, for the trap. Men didn't help women for free, not in her experience. There was always a price, always something owed. "Why?" she asked. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. His eyes went distant, looking at something she couldn't see, something inside his own head. "Because 3 years ago, someone needed help, and I didn't get there in time. Maybe this balances the scales a little. Maybe it doesn't. But I couldn't leave you there." Truth. She heard it in his voice, raw and painful. This man was haunted. She recognized it because she was haunted too. "The men at the wagon," Clara said. "Did you see them?" "No, just the aftermath." "They worked for Werner. James Werner. I heard them say his name." Daniel's whole body went still. "You're sure?" "Yes," one of them said. "Werner wants no witnesses." They were checking the bodies, looking for something. Then they burned everything. What were they looking for? Clara held up the envelope. This, I think. Eliza gave it to me before. She couldn't finish. Didn't need to. Can I see it? Daniel asked. The full thing. She hesitated, then handed it over. What did it matter now? Everyone who could be hurt by it was already dead. Daniel read it slowly. His face gave nothing away. When he finished, he folded it carefully, handed it back. You know what this is? He asked. A list. Names and money. I think there are other brides, women Werner placed. They're victims. Daniel stood, walked to a small desk in the corner, opened a drawer, pulled out a folder, thick with papers. He brought it back, set it on the bed. Read. Clara opened the folder. Inside were newspaper clippings, marshal reports, notes in tight handwriting, all about Werner transport, about mail-order brides who disappeared, about accidents that weren't accidents, about a pattern spanning 5 years. 18 women, 18 deaths ruled accidental or natural. The last page was a photograph. A young woman, blonde hair, gentle smile, beautiful in a quiet way. Written beneath, in careful script, Rachel Cassidy. Deceased 1885. Your wife, Clara said. It wasn't a question. Yes. Werner killed her. I believe so, but I could never prove it. She died here, in this cabin. The doctor said fever. But I knew, and I couldn't do anything about it. Clara looked at him, really looked. Saw the grief carved into the lines around his eyes, saw the guilt in the set of his shoulders. This man was drowning in ghosts. Same as her. You were a lawman, she said. Daniel reached into his pocket, pulled out a tarnished badge, U.S. Marshal. He set it on the table between them. Was past tense. I quit 3 years ago, after Rachel. After I realized someone in the marshal's office was protecting Werner, someone was making sure the investigations went nowhere, making sure the deaths stayed accidental. But you kept investigating. Someone had to. Clara picked up the badge, felt the weight of it. Cold metal, heavy with meaning. If you're not a marshal anymore, she said slowly, why are you still doing this? Because she asked me to. Daniel's voice was quiet, almost too quiet to hear. The night before she died, she made me promise, said if anything happened to her, I had to stop him, stop Werner, stop the killing. She knew. Somehow she knew what was coming. And you've been trying to keep that promise ever since. Trying and failing. I have evidence, I have patterns. I have 18 dead women and 50 pages of notes. But I don't have proof. Nothing that would stand up in court. Nothing that would put him away. Clara looked down at the envelope in her hands, at Eliza's blood staining the paper, at the list of names and numbers that added up to a business built on murder. What if I told you, she said carefully, that I didn't get on that wagon by accident? Daniel's eyes sharpened. What do you mean? I mean Eliza Monroe sent me a letter 2 months ago. She was a bride. Werner placed 2 years back. She survived. But 2 of the women who traveled with her didn't. Eliza started asking questions, started investigating. She found something. She wouldn't tell me what in the letters, said it was too dangerous. But she told me if anything happened to her, I should find Marshal Daniel Cassidy in Redemption Springs. The silence stretched between them, heavy with implications. You were coming to find me, Daniel said. I was coming to find you, but Werner's office reached out to my father first, offered to place me. Perfect timing, perfect opportunity. I thought I could get inside, find out what Eliza found, get proof. That's insane. You could have been killed. I was going to be killed anyway. The words came out flat, matter of fact. My father is dying, consumption. He has maybe 6 months. We have no money, no family. I was going to end up in a factory, or worse. At least this way I was doing something that mattered. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. You're telling me you intentionally signed up to be a mail-order bride knowing it might be a death sentence? Yes. That's either the bravest thing I've ever heard or the most foolish. Probably both. Clara met his eyes. But I'm alive. I made it. And I have Eliza's envelope, so maybe it was worth it. Your father knows you did this. The question hit like a physical blow. Clara looked away, out the window, at the desert beyond. My father signed the contract, she said. Her voice was hollow, empty. He took Werner's money, $500, enough to pay for his medicine, enough to buy him 6 more months of life. He sold me. Clara, don't, She held up a hand. Don't say you're sorry. Don't say he didn't know, because he did. I saw it in his eyes when he signed the papers. He knew something was wrong. He knew, and he did it anyway because he was desperate and I was expendable. She pulled another paper from inside her dress. A letter, creased from being folded and unfolded too many times. She handed it to Daniel. He read it. His face darkened with each line. The letter was from Clara's father. An apology that wasn't an apology. An explanation that explained nothing. A confession wrapped in excuses. He wrote about debt, about desperation, about having no choice. But buried in the middle one line stood out. Werner is an old friend. He assured me you would be well taken care of. Daniel looked up. Werner knew your father. They served together in the war, stayed friends after. When my father's business failed, Werner offered to help. This was the help. Your father sold you to his old war buddy. Yes. And you went anyway. What choice did I have? Say no and watch my father die knowing I could have saved him. At least this way I could try to do some good. Try to stop Werner before more women died. Daniel was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was gentle. You know it's not your fault. What your father did, what Werner did, none of that is on you. Isn't it I got on that wagon? I put Eliza at risk. She died protecting me. If I hadn't been there, If you hadn't been there, she would have died anyway, and no one would know what Werner is doing. No one would have this list. No one would have a chance to stop him. Clara wanted to believe that, wanted to think Eliza's death meant something, that her own survival had purpose. But guilt was a heavy thing. It didn't lift just because someone told you it should. What happens now? She asked. Daniel stood, walked to the window, stared out at the desert for a long moment. Now we have a choice. I can take you to town, put you on a train. You can go anywhere you want. Start over somewhere. Werner will never find you. You'll be safe. Or you stay. We work together. We use what you know and what I know, and we build a case, a real case, one that will stand up in court, one that will put Werner away for the rest of his life. That's dangerous. Yes. We could both die. Yes. Werner has money, power, friends in the marshal's office. I know. Clara stood, walked to where Daniel stood by the window. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the desert in shades of red and gold, beautiful and harsh and unforgiving. There's something else you should know, she said quietly. The list Eliza gave me. It has 12 names. But Werner has another shipment coming. 15 more women. They're supposed to arrive in Santa Fe in 5 days. Daniel turned to look at her. How do you know? Eliza mentioned it in her last letter. Said she was going to try to stop it. That's why she was on that wagon. She was going to warn the other women. Tell them the truth. And she was killed for it. Yes. Which means Werner knows someone is investigating, knows someone is getting close. He's tied up loose ends, cleaned house. In 5 days, 15 more women will arrive, and if we don't stop him, they'll disappear too, just like the others. 5 days. Not much time. Not nearly enough time to build a case, to gather evidence, to do this right, but sometimes you didn't get enough time. Sometimes you had to work with what you had. Daniel picked up his badge, looked at it, old metal catching the fading light. He'd carried it for 15 years, put it down 3 years ago, thought he was done. If we do this, he said, we do it right. Legal. By the book, no shortcuts, no revenge. We gather evidence, we build a case, we let the law handle it. The law that has a corrupt deputy on Werner's payroll. I know a marshal in Denver, Thomas Reed. We served together years back. If anyone in the territory is clean, it's him. We get the evidence to him. He'll make sure it gets to the right people. Clara nodded. All right, legal, by the book. You're sure? Once we start this, there's no going back. Werner will know you're alive. He'll come for you. Let him come. I died 2 days ago in that desert. Everything after this is borrowed time. Might as well use it for something worthwhile. Daniel held out his hand. Clara took it. His grip was firm, warm, the handshake of a partnership, an agreement. We'll need a plan, he said. We'll need more than a plan. We'll need a miracle. Maybe. But miracles start with people willing to try. They stood together as the sun finished setting. Two ghosts making promises to other ghosts. Two people who should have walked away but couldn't, wouldn't. Outside the desert grew dark. Inside a single lamp was lit. Maps were spread on the table, papers organized, a plan taking shape. And 40 miles north, in a fine office in Santa Fe, James Werner received a telegram. Wagon destroyed. All passengers confirmed dead. Mission complete. He read it twice, smiled, crumpled the paper and tossed it in the fire, watched it burn, one problem solved. 15 more opportunities arriving in 5 days. Business was good. He had no idea that one of his dead passengers was sitting in a cabin learning how to load a rifle, learning how to investigate, learning how to be dangerous. He had no idea that his old friend's daughter had survived, that she knew his name, that she was coming for him. He had no idea that the woman he'd tried to bury in the desert was about to become his worst nightmare. Clara Brennan was dead. The wagon had burned. The evidence was destroyed. But ghosts, as Werner would soon learn, had a way of coming back. And this ghost had teeth. Photographs and truths. The third morning, Clara woke to the smell of coffee. Real coffee. Not the chicory blend they'd served on the train. She dressed in the simple cotton dress Mrs. Fletcher had left, found Daniel on the porch, 2 cups waiting. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Like I was trampled by horses, but better than yesterday." "Progress." He handed her a cup. "We need to talk about your story. If Werner thinks you're dead, we need to keep it that way. No one can know you survived." "What about Mrs. Fletcher?" She saw me. "I told her you were my cousin, visiting from Texas. Got thrown from a horse." Clara sipped the coffee. Bitter and strong. Perfect. "You're a good liar. Practice." Daniel pulled out a notebook. "Tell me everything you remember about the attack. Every detail, no matter how small." She closed her eyes. Forced herself back to that moment, the sun setting, the wagon jolting to a stop, Eliza's hand suddenly gripping her arm. There were 4 men, maybe 5. I couldn't see them all. One had a scar, right side of his face, diagonal, from temple to jaw. Daniel wrote it down. What else? The leader wore a long coat, expensive, city clothes, not ranch wear. He gave the orders. Did he have a name? No, they just called him Sir. Weapons, rifles. Winchester, I think, military style. The guard tried to fight. They shot him first. 2 bullets, back of the head. Professional. Daniel's jaw tightened. They've done this before. The way they moved, the way they checked the bodies. It was routine, like a job they'd done a dozen times. She opened her eyes, looked at Daniel. That's what we are to them, a job. Women are just inventory to be managed. Not anymore, not if we stop them. Clara set down her cup. Show me what you have on Werner. Everything. They spent the morning going through Daniel's files. 3 years of investigation, newspaper clippings, marshal reports, witness statements, names and dates and places. A pattern emerging from chaos. Werner Transport had operated for 7 years. In that time, 83 women had been placed as mail-order brides. Most arrived safely, found husbands, built lives, normal, legal, above board. But 18 women disappeared, 18 accidents. And when Daniel traced the money, a pattern emerged. The women who disappeared all came from families in debt. Desperate families. Families willing to pay for their daughters to be placed somewhere safe, somewhere respectable. Werner collected from both sides, $500 from the family, $500 from the prospective husband, $1,000 per placement. But the women who disappeared, Werner kept both payments. The family thought their daughter was married and safe. The prospective husband thought there had been an accident. No one asked questions. No one compared notes. Except Eliza. Somehow Eliza had figured it out, had started connecting cases, building evidence, and it had gotten her killed. There's something else, Daniel said. He pulled out a photograph. Old. Faded. A young woman with blonde hair and bright eyes. Rachel, my wife. Clara took the photograph carefully, studied the face. Rachel had been beautiful. But it was her eyes that caught attention. Intelligent. Kind. Sad in a way that suggested she'd seen too much too young. She looks like she carried secrets, Clara said quietly. She did. Still does. Daniel pulled out another photograph, much older, the edges worn. This was in her things after she died. I didn't find it until months later, hidden in a book. The second photograph showed a man and a young girl. The man was perhaps 40, stern face, military bearing. The girl was maybe 18, the same blonde hair, the same eyes. "That's Rachel?" Clara asked. "Yes, about 5 years before I met her." "Who's the man?" Daniel was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful, controlled, like he was working hard to keep emotion out of it. "I didn't know for a long time. Rachel never talked about her family, said they were dead, said she had no one. I believed her because I wanted to, because I loved her, because I didn't ask the hard questions." He pulled out one more photograph, recent, a newspaper clipping. A well-dressed man cutting a ribbon, opening a new office. The caption read, "James Werner, proprietor of Werner Transport and Marriage Bureau, expands business to Denver territory." The same face, 20 years older, but the same man. Clara's breath caught. No. Rachel's real name was Margaret Werner. She was his daughter. The room tilted. Clara sat down hard. Werner killed his own daughter. "I think so. I've spent 3 years trying to prove it. Rachel, Margaret, whoever she was, she ran from him, changed her name, found me. We got married. For 6 months we were happy. Then Werner found her." "How do you know?" "She started getting letters, unsigned. But I recognized the handwriting later, from business documents Werner filed. The letters said she needed to come home, that she was forgiven, that her father missed her. She refused. She burned the letters, told me they were from someone from her past, someone who couldn't let go. I offered to help. She said no, said the past was dead, we should leave it buried." Daniel stood, walked to the window. His reflection ghosted in the glass. "Then, one night, I had to go to town, supply run. I told her I'd be back by morning. When I got home, she was in bed. Fever, the doctor said. Came on sudden. These things happen. But you didn't believe it. Her neck had bruises. Finger marks, like someone had held her down. The doctor said they were from fever spasms. I said that was impossible. He showed me the death certificate, natural causes, already signed. Who was the doctor? Dr. Greenwood, respectable man, been in Redemption Springs 20 years, no reason to doubt him. Except 2 weeks after Rachel died, Dr. Greenwood bought a new house, paid cash, $5,000. I checked his bank records. The deposit came from a numbered account in Santa Fe. Clara felt cold. Werner paid him. I think so, but I could never prove the connection. The account was legal, the money was clean. Greenwood said it was an inheritance, no way to prove otherwise. So Werner murdered his own daughter and paid a doctor to cover it up. Yes. Daniel turned from the window. His face was hard. And I've spent 3 years gathering evidence. 3 years watching Werner place more women. 3 years knowing he'll kill again, because he always does. Clara thought about her father, about the contract he'd signed, about Werner's old war buddy selling his daughter to a monster. "My father must not have known," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Daniel was kind enough not to contradict her. They worked through the afternoon, organizing, cross-referencing, building timelines. The 15 women arriving in 5 days kept pulling at Clara's attention. 15 lives, 15 potential victims. As the sun set, Daniel made dinner, simple food, bread and beans. They ate in silence. "Tomorrow we start training," Daniel said finally. "Training for what? If we're going after Werner, you need to know how to protect yourself, how to shoot, how to move quietly, how to think like an investigator." "I know how to think. Not like this. Werner is smart. Careful. He stayed ahead of the law for 7 years. If we're going to take him down, we need to be smarter, more careful." Clara nodded. "Teach me." That night she lay in the small bed in the cabin's only bedroom. Daniel had insisted she take it, said he'd sleep on the porch. It was warm enough. He'd done it before. Through the window she could see stars, millions of them, the same stars that had watched Eliza die, the same stars that had watched 18 women before her, the same stars that would watch 15 more women arrive in Santa Fe in 4 days. Unless Clara and Daniel could stop it. She thought about her father, dying in Philadelphia, spending Werner's blood money on medicine that would buy him a few more months. Did he know what he'd done? Did he care? She thought about Eliza, kind Eliza, who had pushed her toward safety, who had given her the envelope, who had bought Clara's survival with her own life. She thought about Rachel, Margaret, a daughter running from a father who valued control over love, a woman who found happiness for 6 months before that father took it away, and she thought about the 15 women on a train heading west, excited, nervous, dreaming of new lives, having no idea what waited for them at the end of the line. Sleep didn't come easy. When it did, it brought dreams of fire and blood and a man in a long coat smiling as the world burned. But when Clara woke at dawn, she didn't scream, didn't cry. She got dressed, went outside, found Daniel already awake. "I'm ready," she said. He looked at her, really looked, saw something in her face that satisfied him. "Then let's begin." 4 days until 15 women arrived in Santa Fe. 4 days to build a case. 4 days to become dangerous. 4 days until the ghost came back to haunt James Werner. The desert sun rose red and fierce. A new day, a new fight. And somewhere in Santa Fe, in a fine office with expensive furniture, Werner opened his ledger, wrote down 15 new names, calculated his profit. He had no idea that one of his ghosts was learning to shoot, learning to hunt, learning to bring the dead back to life. But he would, soon. 4 days. That was all they had. 4 days to turn a wounded woman into a weapon. 4 days to build a plan that wouldn't get them both killed. 4 days before 15 more women stepped off a train in Santa Fe and walked into Werner's trap. The first morning, Daniel handed Clara a rifle. Winchester. Older model but well maintained. The wood was smooth from years of use, the metal cold and heavy. "Ever fired one?" he asked. "No." "Good. No bad habits to break." They walked out beyond the cabin, into the desert where the rocks rose like broken teeth and nothing lived but scorpions and hope. Daniel set up targets. Tin cans on fence posts. Simple. Clear. "The gun doesn't care if you're afraid," he said. "Doesn't care if you're angry. It just does what you tell it. So you need to be calm, present, here in this moment." Clara lifted the rifle. It was heavier than she expected. The stock pressed against her shoulder. Wrong. Uncomfortable. "Breathe," Daniel said. "You're holding tension in your shoulders. Let it go." She tried. Failed. The rifle wavered. "Think of it like this," Daniel said quietly. "That target is everyone who hurt you, everyone who lied, everyone who said you didn't matter. Your father, Werner, every man who thought you were property to be sold. Now, make them wrong." Clara steadied, breathed, squeezed the trigger. The shot went wide, kicked dirt 3 feet right of the target. She tried again and again. 6 shots, 6 misses. Her shoulder ached. Her ears rang. Frustration built like pressure in her chest. She lowered the rifle, turned away, felt tears coming, and hated herself for it. "I can't do this," she said. "You're right." Daniel took the rifle. "You can't. Not yet. But tomorrow you'll get closer. Day after that, closer still. Nobody learns to shoot in a morning. Nobody learns to be dangerous in 4 days. But you can learn to not be helpless. That's enough." He was right. She knew he was right. But knowing didn't make the failure easier to swallow. They tried again in the afternoon. Again, in why. This time Daniel put the targets closer, gave her smaller goals, hit the fence post. Forget the can. Just wood, just something bigger. The 7th shot splintered wood. Not a kill shot, not even a good shot. But contact, progress. By evening her shoulder was bruised, her hands shook from the recoil. But she'd hit the post 5 times. Would that be enough, when it mattered? Probably not, but it was better than nothing. That night they sat on the porch, the desert cooling around them, stars emerging like pinpricks in black cloth. "Tell me about the plan," Clara said. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was measured, careful. "Werner thinks you're dead. That's our advantage. We use it. You go to Santa Fe, walk into his office, rise from the grave. He'll have me killed immediately. No, he'll be curious first, confused. He'll want to know how you survived, what you know, who you told. Curiosity will buy you time." "How much time?" "Enough to get into his office, to see his files, to find proof. And if he doesn't let me in, he will. Werner is a businessman. He'll see an opportunity, a loose end to tie up. He'll think he controls the situation. We let him think that. Clara turned to look at Daniel. His face was shadowed in the dim light. Hard to read. You're asking me to walk into the monster's mouth. Yes. And trust that you'll pull me out before it closes. Yes. That's insane. It is. But it's also the only play we have. The 15 women arrive in 3 days. We can't stop them. Can't warn them without tipping our hand. But if we can get evidence before they arrive, real evidence, ledgers, contracts, names, and dates, then we can go to the marshal, stop Werner before he acts. And if we fail, Daniel didn't answer, didn't need to. They both knew what failure meant. 15 more ghosts, 15 more names in a ledger. The second day, Clara learned to move quietly, to watch without being seen, to memorize faces and details. Daniel taught her observation, taught her how investigators thought. Werner will test you, he said. He'll ask questions, look for inconsistencies. You need a story that holds up under pressure. They built it together. Clara Brennan survived the wagon attack, hit her head, wandered the desert for 2 days. A rancher found her, brought her to town. She had amnesia. Didn't remember much. But she found the contract in her pocket. Still wanted to fulfill it. Still needed the marriage Werner had promised. It was weak, full of holes, but it might hold long enough. What about my father? Clara asked. Werner knows him, knows our history. Tell the truth. Your father sold you. You're angry, but you have nowhere else to go. Werner will understand that. He built his business on desperation. The third day they rode to a town 20 miles south. Small place. Barely a town at all, but it had a telegraph office. Daniel sent a coded message to Denver, to Marshal Thomas Reed, his old friend, the one man he trusted. Package arriving Santa Fe, day 9. Need clean backup. The response came an hour later. Understood. We'll be there. Stay safe. 3 words. Stay safe. Easy to say. Harder to do. That night, Clara cut her hair, stood in front of the small mirror in the cabin, took the scissors Daniel offered, started cutting. Long dark hair fell to the floor. Years of growth. Years of being the good daughter. The obedient girl. All of it falling away. When she finished, it was short, uneven, practical. She looked different, harder. Like someone who'd died and come back wrong. It suits you, Daniel said from the doorway. I look like a boy. You look like someone who stopped caring what people think. That's dangerous. Werner won't expect it. The 4th day they didn't train, didn't plan. Just sat on the porch, drinking coffee, watching the sun move across the sky. Tomorrow Clara would ride to Santa Fe, would walk into Werner's office, would bet her life on a plan built from desperation and hope. I'm scared, she said. Not a question, just a fact. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. It's the people who aren't scared who die. Were you scared when you went after criminals, when you wore that badge? Daniel looked at the badge sitting on the porch railing. Tarnished metal catching afternoon light. Every time, every single time. The fear never goes away. You just learn to work through it. What if I freeze? What if I see Werner and I just... Stop. Then you remember why you're doing this. You remember Eliza, the 15 women on that train, Rachel, all the ghosts. You remember they're counting on you. Clara nodded, didn't trust herself to speak. As the sun set, Daniel handed her something. Small, cold, a Derringer, tiny 2-shot pistol. Hide it in your boot, he said. Last resort. If everything goes wrong, if I can't get to you, you use this. She took it, felt the weight. 2 bullets, 2 chances. I don't know if I can kill someone, she said quietly. You won't have to. Just point it. Most men will back down when they see a gun, even a small one. And if they don't, Daniel met her eyes, then you pull the trigger, and you live with it after, same as I have. Santa Fe. The train pulled into Santa Fe at noon. Clara stepped onto the platform wearing a simple gray dress, hair short, face pale. She looked like what she was supposed to be, a survivor, someone who'd crawled out of hell and didn't quite know how to be human again. Daniel was already in town, arrived 2 days earlier. Different train, different route, watching from shadows, keeping distance. If Werner had people at the station, they couldn't be seen together. Santa Fe was bigger than Clara expected. Real buildings, paved streets, people everywhere, city people, the kind who looked at her short hair and worn dress with suspicion. She found Werner's office easily. 3-story building, well-maintained, a brass plaque beside the door. Werner Transport and Marriage Bureau, respectable, professional, everything a young woman looking for a fresh start could want. Clara stood across the street, studying it, memorizing exits, windows, patterns, the way Daniel taught her. A woman entered the building, young, maybe 20, carrying a carpet bag, nervous, hopeful. Another bride, another lamb walking into the slaughterhouse. Clara's hands clenched. Not yet. She couldn't act yet. Had to wait. Had to play this right. She crossed the street, climbed the steps, opened the door. Inside was respectable as the outside promised. Polished floors, comfortable chairs, oil paintings on the walls, a desk where a woman sat, middle-aged, severe face, Mrs. Yates according to the nameplate. "May I help you?" Mrs. Yates asked. Her voice was professionally pleasant, eyes cataloging, assessing. "I need to see Mr. Werner," Clara said. "About a contract." "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but he'll want to see me." Mrs. Yates's expression said she doubted that. "Mr. Werner is very busy. If you'd like to leave your name, I can see if he has time later this week." "Tell him Clara Ashwood is here, from the wagon that burned 4 days ago. Tell him I survived." The words hit like stones in still water. Mrs. Yates went pale. Her hands stilled on the papers she'd been organizing. "I'm sorry," she said carefully. "Did you say Clara Ashwood?" "Yes." "From the Redemption Springs wagon?" "Yes." Mrs. Yates stood, smoothed her skirt. "Please wait here." She disappeared through a door marked "Private." Clara heard low voices, urgent, surprised. The door opened. Mrs. Yates emerged. Behind her came a man. James Werner was 58, but looked younger, well-dressed, expensive suit, silver hair neatly trimmed, kind eyes, gentle smile. He looked like someone's favorite uncle, someone who gave good advice and meant well. He looked nothing like a monster. "Miss Ashwood," he said. His voice was warm, concerned. "My dear girl, we heard about the terrible accident. Please, come in. Sit down. Tell me everything." He gestured to his office. Clara followed. The room was large, well-appointed. Mahogany desk, leather chairs, bookshelves filled with ledgers and files. On the wall hung a portrait. Young woman, blonde hair, kind eyes. Rachel, Margaret Werner's daughter. Clara's stomach turned. This man had killed his own child, had her poisoned and buried, and continued his business like nothing happened. "Please," Werner said again, pulling out a chair. "You must be exhausted. Mrs. Yates, bring tea." Clara sat. Werner settled behind his desk, studied her with those kind eyes, looking for cracks, for lies. "I have to say," he began, "we were devastated to hear about the wagon. Such a tragedy. The driver, the guard, those poor women. We've been in contact with the families, offering condolences, arranging for what arrangements can be made." "I don't remember much," Clara said. Her voice came out flat, hollow. "The attack happened so fast. Fire, screaming. I woke up 2 days later in a stranger's ranch. They said I'd been wandering, delirious. How terrible." "Do you remember anything about the attackers?" "No, just chaos. I hit my head. Everything after is blank until I woke up." Werner nodded, sympathetic. "And you came here because—" Clara pulled the contract from her pocket, creased, stained with old blood. "I found this. I still want to honor it. I have nowhere else to go." "My dear girl, the arrangement was with Mr. Harold Whitaker. When we informed him of the accident, he withdrew his offer. I'm afraid that particular placement is no longer available." "Then find me another, please. My father is dying." "I have no money, no family. This was supposed to be my future. I can't go back to nothing." Werner was quiet, watching her, looking for something. Clara held his gaze. Let him see desperation, fear, everything a young woman in her position should feel. "May I ask," Werner said slowly, "why you didn't go to the authorities, report the attack, and tell them what—" "That I don't remember anything, that I'm a woman with no money and no prospects, asking them to investigate a tragedy they've already closed. I'm not naive, Mr. Werner. I know how the world works." Still, it seems unusual. What's unusual is surviving when everyone else died. What's unusual is having a second chance. I'm not going to waste it arguing with men who don't care. A long silence. Werner steepled his fingers, thinking. I may have another placement, he said finally. A gentleman in San Francisco. Wealthy, established. He's looking for a wife with particular qualities. Intelligence, independence, someone who's seen hardship. He'll be in Santa Fe next week. I could arrange a meeting. I'll need somewhere to stay until then. Of course, we have arrangements with a boarding house. Respectable, safe, I'll have Mrs. Yates make the arrangements. He stood, extended his hand. Clara took it. His grip was firm, dry, the handshake of a businessman closing a deal. Welcome back from the dead Miss Ashwood, he said. I do hope your second chance proves more fortunate than your first. Clara left the office, walked down the stairs, out into the bright afternoon. Her heart was hammering, hands shaking. She'd done it, walked into the monster's mouth and walked back out. But she'd seen something in Werner's eyes at the end, something that wasn't quite belief. He was curious, suspicious, testing. She crossed the street, turned a corner, felt eyes on her back. Someone was following. Clara kept walking, casual, unhurried, turned another corner, ducked into an alley, waited. A man appeared, 40-something, average height, unremarkable face, but he moved like someone trained, someone who knew how to track. Clara's hand went to her boot, to the derringer hidden there. Not yet. Don't panic. The man passed the alley, kept walking, looking for her. She slipped out the other end, found a general store, went inside, pretended to browse, watched through the window. The man was across the street, leaning against a post, reading a newspaper. But his eyes kept flicking toward the store. Professional. Werner had her followed. Of course he did. Clara bought thread she didn't need, left the store, walked to the boarding house Mrs. Yates had mentioned. The man followed 3 blocks back, steady, patient. Inside the boarding house, Clara got a room, 2nd floor, window facing the street. She watched from behind the curtain. The man settled on a bench across the way, still reading his newspaper, still watching. As the sun set, Clara used the boarding house's back entrance, slipped out, made her way through alleys to the saloon where Daniel said he'd be waiting. He was in the back corner, hat low, nursing whiskey. Clara slid into the seat across from him. Werner bought it, she said quietly, but he's having me followed. I know. I've been tracking your shadow since you left Werner's office. Who is he? That's what worries me. I recognize him. Marcus Reed, deputy marshal. Clara's blood went cold. Werner has a deputy marshal on his payroll. Appears so, which means we can't trust local law, can't go to the sheriff, can't go to anyone in Santa Fe. So what do we do? Daniel was quiet, thinking. Reed being here changes things. If Werner has law on his side, he's more dangerous than I thought. More protected. Maybe we should call it off. Wait for your friend from Denver. No time. The 15 women arrive at dawn, less than 8 hours from now. If we wait, they're dead. So what's the plan? Daniel pulled out a pocket watch, checked the time. Tonight Werner will be at the Cattlemen's Association dinner. Big event. He goes every month, schmoozes with ranchers, builds connections. He'll be gone from his office for hours. You want to break in? I want to search his office, find his ledgers, get proof. You said you saw filing cabinets, account books. That's what we need. What about Reed? What about Werner's people? Reed is watching you. If you stay in your room at the boarding house, he'll stay outside. I can slip in through the back of Werner's building, be in and out before anyone knows. Alone? That's too dangerous. More dangerous than you walking back into Werner's office. We're past safe options, Clara. We're down to necessary ones. He was right. She knew he was right, but the thought of splitting up, of Daniel going into that building alone. If something goes wrong, she said, then you get on a train, you run, you survive. That's the deal. That's not a deal. That's you planning to die. Daniel met her eyes. I've been dead for 3 years, since Rachel. This is just making it official. Don't. Clara's voice was sharp. Don't talk like that. We're both getting out of this. We're both going to watch Werner hang. That's the plan. A ghost of a smile crossed Daniel's face. Yes, ma'am. They sat in silence, Two people about to bet everything on a plan that probably wouldn't work. Two people who should walk away, but couldn't. "The women on the train," Clara said quietly. "The 15. Do you think they know? Do you think any of them suspect? Some might, same as you did, same as Eliza did, but most won't. Most will believe the promises, the dream of something better. We have to save them. We will, one way or another." Clara wanted to believe that, wanted to think they could stop this. But doubt was a heavy thing, and faith was in short supply. At midnight, Clara returned to her room. Reed was still outside, still watching. She made a show of lighting a lamp, moving around. Then she lay down, fully dressed, and waited. Breaking and entering, Daniel approached Werner's building from the alley. 3 stories of respectable business. Dark now. Empty. Or it should be. He picked the back door lock. Easy. Old mechanism. 3 minutes, and he was inside. The ground floor was storage, shipping crates, supplies, nothing interesting. He moved to the stairs, climbed quiet. 2nd floor, Werner's office. The door was locked, but Daniel expected that. Another minute with his picks, and it swung open. Inside was dark. Daniel lit a small candle, shielded the flame, let his eyes adjust. The portrait of Margaret stared down at him, his dead wife wearing a different name, looking young and innocent and doomed. Daniel forced himself to look away. Focus. He had maybe an hour before Werner returned from dinner, maybe less. The desk first. He went through drawers, found correspondence, business documents, all legitimate, nothing incriminating. The filing cabinet next. Locked. This one took longer. 5 minutes. His hands were sweating. Inside were folders, organized by year, 1882 through 1887. Daniel pulled the most recent. Names, addresses, contracts, all standard, all legal-looking. Then he found it. A second set of books, hidden behind the legitimate ones, smaller, personal. Daniel opened the first ledger. His breath caught. Columns, dates, names, money in, money out, profit margins. And beside each name, a notation. Placed, completed, closed. Closed meant dead. He knew it in his bones. 18 entries marked closed, 18 women, 18 murders hidden behind accounting, and at the bottom of the current page, 15 new entries, arriving tomorrow. Not yet marked, not yet closed, but they would be, unless he stopped it. Daniel heard footsteps on the stairs. His hand went to his gun. Too soon. Werner shouldn't be back yet. The door opened. Light flooded in. Daniel squinted against it. Werner stood in the doorway. Behind him, 2 men. One was Marcus Reed. The other Daniel didn't recognize. "Marshal Cassidy," Werner said. His voice was calm, almost amused. "I wondered when you'd come calling." Daniel's gun was already drawn. "Step back, all of you. Or what you'll shoot a deputy marshal, a respected businessman in his own office." Werner smiled. "I don't think so. I have evidence. Your ledgers. Your true books. This is over, Werner." "Is it Deputy Reed? Would you be so kind as to arrest this man for trespassing and attempted theft?" Marcus stepped forward, his hand on his gun. "Cassidy, put down your weapon." "Marcus, you're better than this. I know you. We served together. You're not a killer." "No, but I am practical. Werner pays well, and what you're holding won't stand up in court. No judge will allow illegally obtained evidence." Daniel's mind raced. Reed was right. He'd broken in, stolen the ledgers. Any lawyer would get it thrown out. "There are 15 women arriving tomorrow," Daniel said. 15 lives. Are you really going to let them die for money?" For the first time, Marcus looked uncomfortable. "Werner assured me there would be no more incidents, that this business was being restructured." "And you believed him?" Daniel laughed, bitter. "He killed his own daughter, Reed. What makes you think he'll keep his word to you?" Werner's face changed. The kindly uncle mask slipped. Something cold showed through. "Don't speak of Margaret," he said quietly. "You don't have that right." "I have every right. I loved her. She loved me. And you murdered her for it. I freed her from a mistake, from you. She was coming home. She just needed encouragement." The office door burst open again. Clara stood there, the derringer in her hand, pointed at Werner. Daniel's heart stopped. "Clara, no. Drop your weapons," she said. Her voice was steady. Her hands weren't. "All of you." Werner looked at her, really looked. And something shifted in his expression. Recognition. Understanding. "Clara Ashwood," he said slowly. "Or should I say Clara Brennan, Lawrence Brennan's daughter. I thought you looked familiar." "You have his eyes." Clara flinched. "You knew my father." "We served together. Good man, terrible businessman. When he came to me desperate, drowning in debt, I offered to help, for old time's sake. By buying his daughter, by offering you a future, a good husband, security. Your father agreed, signed the contract, took my money. If you want to be angry at someone, be angry at him. I am angry at him, and I'm angry at you. You kill women, you profit from their deaths. That ends tonight." Werner sighed, pulled out a document from his desk, unfolded it, showed Clara, her father's signature, clear, unmistakable. He knew Clara, maybe not everything, but enough. He suspected, and he signed anyway, because men always do what they have to do, even if it means sacrificing their daughters. Clara's hands shook harder. The Derringer wavered. "Shoot him," Daniel said quietly. "He deserves it." "She won't," Werner said confidently. "She's not a killer. She's a good girl who wants to believe in justice, in law, in doing things the right way." Clara looked at Daniel, at the ledgers in his hands, at Reed standing uncertain, at Werner so confident in his control. "You're right," she said. "I'm not a killer." She lowered the gun. Werner smiled. Then Clara's finger found the trigger. She fired, not at Werner, at the oil lamp on his desk. Glass shattered, oil spilled, fire bloomed. In the chaos, Daniel dove for Werner. Marcus pulled his gun. The second man lunged for Clara, and then another shot. From the doorway, the second man fell. A figure stepped into the firelight. Marshal Thomas Reed, older, gray-haired, but unmistakably law. "Nobody move," he said. "I'm Marshal Thomas Reed from Denver, and this party is over." Werner stared. "There are two Reeds, brothers," Marcus said quietly. "Thomas is my older brother, and I just realized which one of us is on the right side." Marcus turned his gun, aimed at Werner instead of Daniel. Werner looked around, at the fire spreading, at the guns pointed at him, at his perfect plan falling apart. "This isn't over," he said. "Yes," Clara said. "It is." The fire alarm rang. People came running, and in the chaos, Werner ran. Out the window, down the fire escape, into the night. Daniel started to follow, but Marshal Reed stopped him. "Let him go. We have the ledgers. We have witnesses. He can run, but he can't hide." "The 15 women," Clara said. "They arrive tomorrow. We'll be at the station. We'll warn them. Protect them." Marshal Thomas Reed looked at his brother. "Right, Marcus?" Marcus nodded, looking ashamed, looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. The fire was out. The evidence saved. Werner gone, but not free. Daniel looked at Clara, soot on her face, gun still in her hand, alive, whole. "You shot the lamp," he said. "You taught me. When you can't shoot the target, change the battlefield." He smiled, actually smiled. "You learn fast." "I had a good teacher." Outside, sirens wailed. The law was coming. Real law this time, law that might actually work. And 40 miles south, a train carried 15 women through the night, carrying them toward a future that had just changed, toward safety they didn't know they needed, toward a tomorrow that Clara Brennan and Daniel Cassidy had bought with a broken plan and desperate courage. Werner was gone, but not for long. Men like him always surfaced, always tried again. But this time, when he did, they'd be ready. This time the ghosts would be waiting. Smoke still hung in the Santa Fe night. It clung to everything, clothes, hair, the inside of Clara's lungs. The building had stopped burning an hour ago, but the damage remained. She stood in the street watching men carry buckets, watching the crowd gather, watching Werner's office become a crime scene instead of a place of business. Marshal Thomas Reed from Denver was giving orders. His voice carried authority, the kind that came from 30 years wearing a badge and meaning it. Marcus stood beside him, quieter now, smaller, a man realizing he'd been on the wrong side. Daniel had the ledgers. Both sets, the legitimate ones and the books that told the truth. 18 names marked closed, 15 names waiting, all the evidence they needed wrapped in leather and smoke damage. "We need to move," Marshal Thomas Reed said. He was older than his brother, maybe 60, gray hair, lined face, but his eyes were sharp, alert. "Werner knows we have the books. He'll try to run, get out of the territory before we can arrest him." "He won't run far," Daniel said. "He has too much here. Too much money, too many connections. He'll try to destroy the evidence, discredit us. Then we move faster. Marcus, I need you to wire Santa Fe Law. Get every available man searching for Werner. Description, last known location. Consider him armed and dangerous." Marcus nodded, started to leave, stopped, looked back at his brother. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I didn't know about the murders." He said it was just business, just paperwork. "You didn't want to know," Thomas said. "Not unkind, just factual. That's the problem with looking the other way. Eventually, you can't see what's right in front of you." Deputy Reed left, head down, shoulders slumped, a man carrying new weight. Clara watched him go, felt something almost like pity. Almost. But then she thought about Eliza, about the 5 women who burned, about 18 ghosts and 15 potential victims. Pity dried up fast. "The train," she said. "The women arrive at dawn, less than 6 hours from now." "We'll be there," Marshal Thomas Reed assured her. "We'll warn them, offer protection, get them somewhere safe until this is sorted. And if Werner gets to them first, he won't. I'll have deputies at the station, armed, watching. Nothing happens to those women. You have my word." Words. Clara had heard a lot of words in her life. Promises, assurances. Her father's words when he signed the contract. Werner's words when he welcomed her to his office. Words were cheap, easy. Action mattered more. "I'm going to the station," she said. "I need to see them, need to know they're safe." "You should rest," Daniel said. "You've been through enough." "So have they. They just don't know it yet." Marshal Reed studied her, seeing something that made him nod. "All right, but you stay back. Let us handle the official business. Last thing we need is complications." Clara agreed. Knew she was lying. Knew when those women stepped off the train she'd do whatever it took to keep them alive. Official business could sort itself out after. They walked to the marshal's office, a small building near the center of town. Inside were cells, a desk, wanted posters on the wall, the usual trappings of frontier law. Marshal Reed laid out the ledgers, started going through them line by line, making notes, building a case that would hold up in court. Daniel sat across from him, answering questions, providing context. 3 years of investigation distilled into facts and evidence. Clara stood at the window, watching the street. The night was deep now, true dark, the kind where anything could happen and no one would see. Somewhere out there Werner was running, or planning, or both. A man like that didn't build an empire by giving up easy. He'd fight, use every connection, every trick, every advantage. "Tell me about your father," Marshal Reed said suddenly. Not to Daniel, to Clara. She turned. "What? Your father? Lawrence Brennan. Werner said they served together, that your father knew about the arrangement. Is that true?" Clara's throat tightened. "Yes." "Did he know about the murders?" "I don't know. Maybe. He suspected something was wrong, but he signed anyway. Took the money." "That must be difficult, knowing that." Difficult. Such a small word for such a large feeling. Betrayal, shame, anger. Love twisted into something ugly and sharp. "My father is dying," Clara said. "Consumption. He has maybe 4 months left. The money Werner paid bought him medicine, bought him time. He chose his life over mine. I understand why. I even forgive him in a way, but I'll never forget." Marshal Reed nodded. Didn't offer platitudes, didn't say it would be all right. Just accepted the truth of it and moved on. "We'll need your testimony. In court, against Werner. It won't be easy. Defense will try to discredit you, make you look like a liar. A woman scorned. Worse. Let them try. I survived a massacre. I walked into Werner's office and walked back out. I can handle lawyers." A ghost of a smile crossed the marshal's face. "I believe you can." The hours crawled past. At 4 in the morning, with dawn still 2 hours away, they moved to the train station. Early. Before the crowd. Before the first light. The platform was empty. Cold. Clara stood near the tracks, feeling the faint vibration that meant a train was coming. Miles away still, but getting closer. Daniel stood beside her. Neither of them spoke. What was there to say? They'd done everything they could. built a case, gathered evidence, warned the law. Now they waited to see if it was enough. The sky began to lighten, gray dawn bleeding into the east. The train's whistle sounded in the distance, low, mournful. The sound of something ending or beginning. Hard to say which. Marshal Reed had 6 deputies with him, good men, alert, positioned around the platform, watching for threats. The train pulled in, steam hissing, brakes squealing. It shuddered to a stop and doors opened. People emerged, tired travelers, businessmen, families, and then the women, 15 of them, young, scared, hopeful, carrying everything they owned in carpetbags and trunks, wearing their best dresses, hair arranged careful. These were women trying to make good impressions, trying to start new lives. They gathered in a cluster, looking around. Uncertain, one of them was barely 18. Dark hair, thin frame. She looked like she might cry. Clara stepped forward. Marshal Reed put a hand on her arm. "Wait, let me." He approached the women, tipped his hat, introduced himself. U.S. Marshal, here on official business. Nothing to be alarmed about, but they needed to come with him, needed to answer some questions. The women's faces shifted, confusion, fear. The young one did start crying. "Am I under arrest?" one asked. Older, maybe 30, red hair, sharp eyes. "I haven't done anything wrong." "No, ma'am, not arrested. Just need to ask about your travel arrangements, about who hired you, where you were headed." "Werner Transport. We all came through Werner. He arranged our placements, our marriages. Is something wrong?" Clara couldn't stay back anymore. She walked forward, stood beside Marshal Reed, looked at the 15 women. "My name is Clara Brennan," she said. 5 days ago I was supposed to arrive with 5 other women. We never made it. Our wagon was attacked. Everyone died except me. Werner Transport arranged that journey. Werner arranged your journeys too." The silence was absolute. Then all 15 women started talking at once. Questions, denials, panic. The red-haired woman held up a hand, silenced the others. "What are you saying, that Werner tried to kill you?" "Werner kills women. He's been doing it for years, takes money from families, takes money from prospective husbands, then arranges accidents, keeps both payments. You were all supposed to die, same as me, same as 18 others before?" "That's insane. Werner is respectable. He's been in business for years. Why would he?" "Money. Control, because he can." Clara pulled out the list, Eliza's blood still staining the edges. "These are 12 women who disappeared in the last 3 years, all through Werner, all dead. You would have been next." The young dark-haired girl sat down hard on her trunk. "I want to go home." "You will," Marshal Reed said gently. "All of you. We'll arrange transport, get you safely back to your families, or wherever you want to go. But first, we need your testimony. Need you to tell us everything about your arrangements with Werner." "He seemed so kind," another woman said. Small voice, blonde. "He promised me a good life, a husband who would care for me." "He promised everyone that," Daniel said. He'd moved forward too, stood with Clara. "He's very good at promises, not so good at keeping them." The women huddled together, whispering, scared. Then the red-haired woman stepped forward. "What do you need us to do?" "The hunt. Werner wasn't at his home, wasn't at his club, wasn't anywhere the obvious places a man might run when his world collapsed. Marshal Reed had deputies searching, questioning, following every lead, but Werner had vanished like smoke, like he'd never existed. "He had this planned," Daniel said. They were in the marshal's office. Maps spread across the desk, territory marked, routes highlighted. Escape routes, safe houses, money hidden. A man doesn't run an operation like this without contingencies. "So where would he go?" Marshal Reed asked. Clara had been quiet, thinking. Now she spoke. "Not away, toward." Both men looked at her. "Werner doesn't run from problems. He solves them. The ledgers are the problem. As long as they exist, he's in danger, so he'll try to destroy them. Or destroy us." Daniel's face changed, understanding. "He's not running. He's hunting." "We're the targets now," Clara said. "He'll come for us, try to eliminate the witnesses, make the evidence disappear. Then we use that," Marshal Reed said. "Set a trap, let him come to us." They planned through the morning. Simple plan. Dangerous. Clara would return to the boarding house. visible, vulnerable. Daniel would watch from across the street. Marshal Reed and his deputies would be positioned around the building. When Werner made his move, they'd take him. He won't come himself, Daniel warned. He'll send men, professionals. Let him. We'll be ready. Clara didn't like it, didn't like being bait. But she understood necessity. Sometimes the only way to catch a monster was to offer yourself as prey. She walked back to the boarding house in full daylight, made sure she was seen, went to her room, sat by the window where anyone watching would see her silhouette, and waited. The afternoon stretched long, hot. Clara's hand stayed near the derringer in her boot. Her eyes tracked every person on the street, every shadow, every movement. Daniel was across the way. She couldn't see him, but she knew he was there, watching, waiting. Dusk came. The street began to empty. Shops closing. People heading home. A knock at her door. Clara stood, hand on the gun. "Who is it?" "Message for Miss Ashwood." A young voice. A boy. She opened the door a crack. A kid stood there, maybe 12, holding an envelope. "Man paid me to deliver this, said it was urgent." Clara took the envelope, gave the boy a coin. He ran off. Inside was a single piece of paper, neat handwriting, Werner's handwriting. "Miss Brennan, we need to talk about your father, about the truth he never told you. Come to the old mission outside town, alone, or I'll make sure everyone knows what Lawrence Brennan really did, how complicit he really was. Your choice, midnight. Come alone or come with the shame of knowing you destroyed your father's memory." Clara read it twice. Her hands shook. This was a trap, obviously a trap. Werner trying to isolate her, get her alone. She should ignore it, should show Daniel, let the law handle it. But the words about her father burned. What truth, what didn't she know? She looked out the window, saw Daniel's position, could signal him, could do this right, or she could end it. Tonight, face Werner, get answers. Clara made a choice, probably the wrong one, but hers. She waited until full dark, then slipped out the back of the boarding house, through alleys, moving quiet like Daniel taught her. No one followed. She was sure of it. The old mission was 3 miles outside town, adobe walls crumbling, roof half collapsed. It had been abandoned for decades. A ghost place for a ghost meeting. Clara arrived at 1:45, tied her horse in the trees, approached on foot. The derringer was in her hand now, safety off. The mission door stood open. Moonlight spilled through the broken roof. Inside were old pews rotting with age, an altar covered in dust, and standing before it, James Werner. He looked older in the moonlight, tired. His expensive suit was rumpled, dirty. This was a man who'd been running, hiding, not used to either. "You came," he said. "I wasn't sure you would. You mentioned my father. What truth? Direct. I appreciate that. Your father was a good man, Clara, weak but good. He didn't want to sell you. It killed him to do it. And yet he did, because I told him what would happen if he didn't. The debts he owed weren't to banks, Clara. They were to men much worse, men who would have taken you anyway, done things much worse than arranging a marriage. Your father came to me desperate, begged me to help, so I offered a solution. Marriage, safety, a new life. I even waived my usual fee. Did it as a favor to an old friend." "Liar. The contract shows $500. That was for your father's other creditors, to pay them off. I didn't keep that money. I gave it to the men who would have hurt you, bought your safety with it." Clara felt the world tilt. "You're lying. You kill women. You profit from their deaths. Some women, the ones who were already dead, the ones sent by families who wanted them gone, embarrassments, inconveniences, unwanted daughters. I simply made their wishes come true and profited from both sides. But not you, never you. Your father loved you. I loved him. I was trying to save you. By putting me on a wagon that was attacked." Werner's face twisted. "That wasn't supposed to happen. That was Victor Kane, my enforcer. He got overzealous. I told him to check on the shipment, make sure everything was smooth. He decided to tie up loose ends, kill everyone who might talk. I didn't order it, didn't want it. When I found out, I was devastated. You expect me to believe you. I expect you to look at the facts. Your father came to me desperate. Men far worse than me wanted you. I paid them off, arranged a legitimate marriage for you, a good man in California. You would have been safe. You're lying. Am I? Why would I lie now I'm already finished, already caught? I'm telling you the truth because it's all I have left. Clara wanted to believe he was lying, needed him to be the monster. Simple, clear, evil. But his eyes held something that looked like sincerity, and that was worse than any lie. He held it out. Clara didn't move, didn't trust it. Werner set it on a pew, stepped back, hands visible. Clara approached slowly, picked up the letter. The handwriting was her father's. She'd know it anywhere. My dearest Clara, it began, if you're reading this, I am gone, and you deserve the truth. Werner is not what you think. He saved you. The men I owed money to were going to take you, sell you. Worse. Werner paid them off, arranged a real marriage for you, a good man in California. Rich, kind. You would have been safe, happy. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you, sorry I had to lie. But this was the only way. Trust Werner. He's trying to help. Love, Father. Clara's hands trembled. The letter blurred. This couldn't be real, couldn't be true. But it was her father's handwriting, his words, his love. The wagon attack, Werner said quietly. That destroyed everything. Cain acted without orders, killed innocent women, including you, he thought. I've been trying to fix it ever since, but then you showed up alive. And I realized maybe this was my chance to make it right. By having me followed, by trying to control me. By protecting you. Reed was supposed to keep you safe, make sure Cain didn't finish the job. Cain works for you. Worked, past tense. When I found out what he did, I fired him, told him to leave the territory. But he won't. He's loose, dangerous, thinks he's owed money for work done. He'll come for you. For the women, for anyone who knows about this. Clara's mind was racing, trying to sort truth from lies. Werner sounded sincere. The letter looked real. But this was a man who'd built an empire on deception. The ledgers, she said, the 18 deaths. 18 arrangements. Some ended in marriage. Some ended in other ways. But those women wanted out, wanted escape. I gave it to them. New identities, new lives. The families thought they were dead. The prospective husbands thought there were accidents. Everyone got what they wanted. You're saying you faked their deaths. Most of them. A few actually did die. Fever. Accidents. Real accidents. But I used those tragedies to build a system, a way to help women who needed to disappear. What about Rachel Margaret? Your daughter? Werner's face crumbled, real emotion breaking through. My greatest failure. Margaret wanted freedom, wanted to escape me. I tried to force her back. Sent men to convince her. They were too rough. She fought, fell, hit her head. It was an accident. But I'm still responsible. I've lived with that guilt every day for 3 years. Clara wanted to believe he was lying, wanted to cling to the monster narrative. Simple, clean. But nothing was simple. Nothing was clean. Why tell me this now? Because Cain is coming, tonight. He knows where you are, where the witnesses are. He's going to kill everyone who knows, cover his tracks. And I can't stop him alone. But together we can. You, me, and whatever law you brought with you. You know Daniel's here. Of course, I've been watching you both since you left the marshal's office. I'm not stupid, Clara. I'm just outnumbered. A sound outside, footsteps, multiple people. Werner's face changed. They're here, Cain and his men. We need to go, now. Clara raised the derringer, pointed it at Werner. Or this is the trap. You lure me here. Your men come. You kill me and blame Cain. If I wanted you dead, you'd be dead. I've had a dozen chances. I'm trying to save you, Clara. Same as I tried to save your father. Same as I tried to save Margaret. I fail a lot. But I try. The mission door burst open. 4 men, armed. Leading them was a man with a scar, diagonal, temple to jaw. The man from the wagon attack, Victor Cain. Well, Cain said. His voice was rough, like gravel scraped over iron. Isn't this convenient? Both my problems in one place. Werner stepped in front of Clara. Cain, this doesn't concern you anymore. You're fired. Take your money and leave. You think you can fire me after 7 years? After everything I've done for you? Cain laughed. Mean. I built this business, I made you rich, and you're going to toss me aside because one wagon went wrong. You killed innocent women without orders. I killed loose ends. Same thing I always do. Same thing you always wanted. I killed loose ends. Same thing I always do. Same thing you always wanted. Cain stepped closer, into the moonlight. Clara saw his face clearly now. The scar. But something else, too. A resemblance. The same sharp cheekbones as Werner. The same cold, calculating eyes. The same set to the jaw. Tell her, Cain said. Tell her who I really am. Werner's face went white. Victor, don't. Why not? She should know. They all should know what kind of man you really are. Cain turned to Clara. James Werner isn't just my employer, he's my father. The words hit like a physical blow. Half-brother to precious Margaret, Cain continued, bitterness dripping from every word. The bastard son, born to a Mexican woman Werner used and discarded, the one he kept hidden, the one who did all the dirty work while Golden Margaret got love and legitimacy. Werner's hands trembled. That's not how it was. Wasn't it? Cain's smile was sharp as broken glass. You gave her everything, a name, an education, love, and me, I got orders. I got paid to kill. I got to be the monster while you played respectable businessman. When you murdered her, I thought finally you'd see me. Finally I'd matter to you. Cain's voice cracked, raw. But no, even dead she mattered more than me. You mourned her, you kept her portrait on your wall, and me, still invisible. Still just the bastard you used. He raised his gun, aimed at Werner. So yes, I'm here to kill you, not for business, not for money, for 37 years of being nothing to you. Clara understood now. This wasn't about Werner firing Cain. This was about a lifetime of rejection, a son desperate to be seen by a father who'd never acknowledge him. Victor, Werner said quietly, I'm sorry, I should have. Too late. Cain's finger tightened on the trigger. Not anymore. I'm done with this. I'm turning myself in, testifying against you. This ends. Cain's smile was a razor. You're right about that. He raised his gun, aimed at Werner. Clara didn't think, just moved, stepped in front of Werner, raised the derringer. Don't, she said. Cain looked at her, really looked. You were on that wagon, the one I burned. You survived. Yes. Impressive. Most people don't. But I don't leave work unfinished. He shifted his aim, toward Clara. 2 shots rang out. Not from Cain, from behind Clara. Daniel stepped out of the shadows behind the altar, his rifle smoking. 2 of Cain's men fell. Then the mission filled with sound. Gunfire, shouting, men pouring through doors. Marshal Reed and his deputies. A planned ambush. Cain cursed, dove for cover. His remaining man returned fire. Clara felt Werner grab her, pull her down behind a pew. Stay low. You knew, she said. You knew they'd come. I hoped. Counted on Cassidy not trusting me, on him following you despite your clever escape. I'm not the villain here, Clara. Cain is. I'm just the fool who created a monster and couldn't control it. Bullets splintered wood above their heads. The smell of gunpowder filled the air. Clara's ears rang. She looked around the pew, saw Cain reloading, saw Daniel advancing, saw everything happening too fast. Cain finished reloading, turned, aimed at Daniel. Clara didn't think, raised the derringer, fired both shots. The first missed. The second hit Cain's shoulder. Not fatal, but enough to throw off his aim. His shot went wide. Daniel closed the distance, slammed the rifle butt into Cain's face. The man went down hard. Silence fell. Sudden. Absolute. The fight was over. Cain's men dead or surrendered. Cain himself unconscious and bleeding on the mission floor. Marshal Reed approached, took in the scene. Werner behind the pew with Clara. Daniel standing over Cain. The violence settling into stillness. Well, the marshal said, this is a mess. Truths and consequences. They brought Cain to the Santa Fe jail, locked him in the strongest cell. Posted guards. The man was dangerous. Would be until he hung. Werner they took to a separate cell. Not because he'd fought, but because he was still under investigation. Still the architect of something dark, even if the details were murky. Clara and Daniel sat in the marshal's office. 3 a.m, both exhausted, both alive. You followed me, Clara said. Of course I did. You think I believed you'd stay in that room? I've known you 5 days, and I know you better than that. Werner knew too. Werner's smart, dangerous kind of smart, the kind that makes you doubt everything. Marshal Reed came in, carrying coffee. They drank it grateful, hot and bitter and real. "I need statements," the marshal said. "From both of you, everything that happened tonight. Everything leading up to it." They talked through dawn, laying out the whole story, the wagon attack, the investigation, the infiltration, the fire at Werner's office, the confrontation at the mission. When they finished, Marshal Reed sat back, rubbed his eyes. This is going to be a nightmare to prosecute. Werner's claiming he's a victim. Kane's claiming he was following orders, both blaming each other. The evidence is circumstantial at best. "The ledgers," Daniel said, "coded. Could mean anything. Lawyer will argue they're legitimate business records. Deaths marked are actual accidents. Nothing provable." The 15 women, their testimony. About what Werner arranging marriages, that's legal. They never actually met their supposed husbands, never got hurt, no crime committed against them. Clara felt cold. "You're saying he'll walk. I'm saying it's complicated. Kane we can hang," he admitted to the wagon attack in front of witnesses. "He fired on federal officers. He's done. But Werner," the marshal shook his head, "slippery. There has to be something. There is. Your testimony about what he told you, about the 18 deaths, about his system. It's not much, but it's something. My word against his. Unless we can find proof, real proof, something that ties Werner directly to the deaths." Daniel stood, paced, thinking. "The families, the women's families, if we can find them, interview them, get them to testify about the money they paid, about what Werner promised. That'll take time, months maybe. Werner's lawyers will delay, appeal. He has money for the best defense. So what do? Marshal Reed looked at Clara. "We build a case the old way, slow, thorough, piece by piece, and we hope the jury sees the truth." The trial happened 3 months later. Clara stayed in Santa Fe, testified, answered questions from lawyers who tried to paint her as a liar. A scorned woman, someone with an agenda. Daniel testified, laid out 3 years of investigation, the patterns, the coincidences, the deaths that weren't quite accidents. 12 families testified. Parents who'd paid Werner to place their daughters, who'd received letters later saying there'd been tragic accidents, who'd never questioned because they trusted, because Werner was respectable. The 15 women testified. About their arrangements, about what they'd been told, about how close they'd come to being next. Each woman took the stand. Each told a similar story. Werner's promises, the respectable contracts, the train journey west, the hope for something better. The red-haired woman, the one who'd spoken first at the station, testified last. "Mr. Werner told me I'd have a good life, a kind husband, a fresh start. I believed him because he seemed so sincere, so respectable." She paused, looked directly at Werner. "If Marshal Cassidy and Miss Brennan hadn't warned us at the station, we would have disappeared. Just like the 18 before us. We would have been victims 19 through 33. The courtroom was silent. "Thank you," she said to Clara, "for saving our lives." All 15 women nodded, some crying, all grateful. About their arrangements, about what they'd been told, about how close they'd come to being next. And Werner sat calm through it all, expensive suit, kind face, looking like someone's favorite uncle who'd been wrongly accused. His defense was simple. He'd run a legitimate business, helped hundreds of women find good marriages. The few who died were tragedies, real accidents. He'd mourned them, tried to help their families. The ledgers were accounting records. The money paid was legitimate fees. Kane was a rogue employee, acting without orders. Werner had fired him, tried to stop him, was himself a victim. It was convincing. Too convincing. The jury deliberated for 3 days. When they came back, Clara held her breath. On the charge of conspiracy to commit murder, we find the defendant not guilty. Clara's heart sank. On the charges of fraud, we find the defendant guilty. On the charges of forgery, we find the defendant guilty. On the charges of theft by deception, we find the defendant guilty. Not murder, but enough. I hereby sentence James Werner to 20 years hard labor in the New Mexico Territorial Prison. Werner stood, The bailiff moved to take him, but before the chains went on, Werner turned, looked directly at Clara. His kind Uncle mask was gone. What showed through was something cold, patient. 20 years, he said quietly, loud enough for only Clara and Daniel to hear. I'll be 78, old, but not dead. And I have a very long memory, Miss Brennan. Clara met his eyes, didn't flinch. So do I, Mr. Werner. We'll see who remembers longer. The bailiff led him away, but his words hung in the air like smoke. Daniel touched Clara's arm. You all right? No, she said honestly, but I will be. Kane hung 2 weeks later. Clara didn't attend, didn't need to see him die to know he was gone. But Werner was still alive, still dangerous, just waiting. Letters from the dead. She didn't write back, didn't know what she'd say. The man was dying, would be dead soon. Let him die with whatever peace he could find. She stayed in Santa Fe, took a job at the marshal's office, clerk work mostly, filing, organizing. But Marshal Reed taught her investigation, taught her how to build cases, how to find truth in lies. Daniel stayed too, took back his badge, U.S. Marshal again, working with Reed, cleaning up the territory one case at a time. They didn't talk about what might be between them, didn't rush, just worked together, had coffee together, sat on the porch some evenings and watched the desert change colors as the sun set. It was enough, for now. The 15 women all went home, back to their families, back to lives that weren't perfect, but were theirs. Clara got letters from some of them, thank you notes, updates. One got married. Real marriage this time, to a man she chose. Sent Clara an invitation to the wedding. Clara didn't go, but she sent a gift, silver candlesticks, and a note that said, "May your future be yours to write." The safe house. 1 year after the trial, Clara used her savings to buy a small boarding house on the edge of Santa Fe. 3 stories, 10 rooms, nothing fancy, but clean, safe. She called it the Way Station. Didn't advertise, didn't promote, but word spread. Women showed up, runaway brides, women escaping bad marriages, women who needed a place to disappear for a while. Clara took them in, no questions, no judgment, taught them skills, reading, writing, bookkeeping, things that would help them build new lives. Daniel helped, fixed things, taught self-defense, made sure the women knew how to protect themselves. 3 women lived there permanently, Sophie, Mary, Ruth, all former mail-order brides who'd survived their own versions of Clara's story. They helped run the house, helped the new arrivals. It wasn't much, wasn't the sweeping change Clara had dreamed of during the trial. No laws changed, no system reformed, just one house, one woman, helping where she could. But it was something. Epilogue, 2 years later. The Way Station had expanded. Bought the building next door. 20 rooms now, always full. Women coming and going. Some staying weeks, some months. A few permanently. Clara ran it with help. Sophie managed accounts. Mary taught reading. Ruth handled supplies. And Daniel did security. Made sure the women were safe. They'd married quietly. Small ceremony. Just the residents and Marshal Reed. Nothing fancy. Didn't need to be. Clara was pregnant 3 months, showing just a little. A daughter, the doctor thought. Though it was too early to be sure, Clara was pregnant. 3 months, showing just a little. A daughter, the doctor thought, though it was too early to be sure. That morning she'd received a letter. Prison stamp. New Mexico Territorial Prison. Inside one sentence in Werner's careful handwriting. Congratulations on the child, 14 years to go, I'm counting. She'd burned it immediately, but kept the ash in a small jar on her desk. A reminder that some monsters don't die, they just wait. Daniel knew about the letters. Werner sent one every few months, always short, always threatening in the politest way. They never responded, never acknowledged, just burned each one and kept the ashes. One day there would be enough ash to bury. Until then, they lived. They built. They saved who they could. She stood on the porch watching evening come, hand on her belly, thinking about the future, about raising a child in this world, this broken, beautiful, terrible world. A wagon pulled up, young woman driving, maybe 19, thin, bruised, running from something. "Is this the Way Station?" she asked, her voice small, scared. "It is," Clara said. "I heard. Women can find safety here. Is that true?" "It is." "I need help. Please, my husband, he hurts me. I tried to leave, but he found me. Said he'll kill me if I try again. I don't know where else to go." Clara came down the steps, helped the woman from the wagon. "What's your name?" "Anne. Anne Morrison." Morrison. Like Eliza. Like the woman who'd saved Clara's life what felt like a lifetime ago. "Well, Anne Morrison, you're safe now. We'll help you. Get you hidden. Get you strong. Whatever you need." Anne started crying. Relief, exhaustion, hope. Clara guided her inside, where warm light waited, where other women would welcome her, where she could stop running and start living. Daniel came out, took the wagon to stable the horse, saw Clara's face, smiled. They'd saved another one. It would never be all of them, would never undo the 18 who died, the countless others in other territories under other Werners, but it was something. And sometimes on nights like this, something felt like everything. Clara looked up at the stars, the same ones that had watched her nearly die, the same ones that had watched her rise. "Thank you," she whispered, to Eliza, to Rachel, to all the ghosts. "Thank you for the chance. I'm trying to use it well." The stars didn't answer, didn't need to. The work was the answer. The women inside were the answer. The life growing in her belly was the answer. She went inside, closed the door, and got back to work. Because the work was never finished. Werner still lived counting days in his cell. New predators would always rise. Women would always need saving. But tonight, one more woman was safe. And Clara Brennan, who died once in the desert and refused to stay dead, was ready. She'd always be ready. The desert stars watched. The same stars that had witnessed her first death. The same stars that would witness her keep fighting until her last breath. Some ghosts rest. Others haunt. Clara chose to haunt the monsters. And she was very, very good at it.